So welcome everybody. My name is Eden Baker and I'm an engagement manager at Luminary Labs. For anyone who is unfamiliar with the challenge, Luminary Labs was engaged by the US Department of Education to run the Rethink Adult Ed challenge. And we're really thrilled to have you all here today to share a little bit more about the challenge, but more excitedly to introduce you to two of the prize winners and share some of our learnings and also what we are planning next for pre-apprenticeship and support for adult education providers in this space. So the purpose of today's session is, as I mentioned, really to share a little bit about what we learned from the challenge and also to introduce the Creating Adult Pre-Apprenticeships online course that will be launching via links in the fall. We'll start by sharing an overview of the challenge, including the goals, the outcomes, and the key learnings. We'll then hear from the grand prize winner, Northampton Community College, and also the first runner-up, Guam Community College, who will both share a little bit about their experience as a finalist in the challenge, and also what they're planning to do next with their pre-apprenticeship. And then finally, we'll share an overview of the Creating Adult Pre-Apprenticeships course that will be launching a little bit later this year. We will have a Q&A at the end of the session, and this will be a chance for you to ask questions from the Department of Education team, the Luminary Labs team, and also both prize-winning teams. So if you do think of anything as we're talking, please take note of those questions, hold on to them, and then we'll come back to them when we get to the Q&A segment at the end. Today, we are really pleased to be joined by the team from the Office of Career, Technical and Adult Education, who spearheaded this initiative. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Travis Combs to share a little bit more about Octay and the challenge.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today as we embark on this really exciting journey of the Pre-Apprenticeship Adult Ed Challenge. The Office of Career, Technical and Adult Education, or Octay, administers and coordinates programs related to adult education and literacy, career and technical education, and community colleges. The Division of Adult Education and Literacy is responsible for enabling adults to acquire the necessary basic skills. The Division of Academic and Technical Education is responsible for helping all students acquire challenging academic and technical skills and also be prepared for high skill, high wage, or high demand occupations in the 21st century global economy. Octay also provides national leadership to strengthen the role of community colleges in expanding access to post-secondary education for youth and adults, as well as advancing workforce development. Apprenticeships serve a pathway into well-paying and rewarding careers across a range of industries, from manufacturing and construction to technology and healthcare. However, many adults miss out on these opportunities because they're not aware of apprenticeship programs or don't have necessary supports to prepare for or gain entry into them. Before we get into the details of the challenge itself, we wanted to share some important context about pre-apprenticeships, including how pre-apprenticeships are defined, the attributes of high-quality programs, and the gaps pre-apprenticeships fill in the adult education space. Pre-apprenticeship programs play a crucial role in driving greater and more diverse participation in apprenticeships and the broader workforce, and opened up critical pathways into in-demand careers from construction and manufacturing through healthcare to technology. Despite the many benefits of these programs, there are several key challenges for adult pre-apprenticeships. Learners often aren't aware of pre-apprenticeships, so they miss out on these opportunities. There aren't enough pre-apprenticeships, particularly in growing industries like technology and healthcare. And based on what we've heard from providers, adult ed providers would like more guidance and support to design and deliver pre-apprenticeship programs. With all of this in mind, the US Department of Education launched the $750,000 Rethink Adult Ed Pre-Apprenticeship Challenge in 2020. It was designed to spur the creation of new adult pre-apprenticeship programs across fields including healthcare, technology, and media, and as well as increase the capacity of adult education providers to deliver high-quality pre-apprenticeship programs. It also aimed to boost the profile of pre-apprenticeships across the adult education sector so that more people are aware of the benefits of these programs. I'll pass it back over to Eden.
Thanks so much, Travis. So I'm now going to share a little bit more about the challenge itself. So You can see on the screen here is the timeline, but the challenge was conducted in 2 stages. So stage 1 launched in September 2020. And during this stage, all AFLA-funded eligible providers were invited to submit a preliminary design for a pre-apprenticeship program. And we were incredibly thrilled to see that the challenge received 203 submissions from providers across 46 states and 2 territories. Following a thorough review of all of these submissions, 95 finalists were selected to progress to the Stage 2 Virtual Accelerator. Finalists included community colleges, local educational agencies, and correctional facilities. The Stage 2 Virtual Accelerator then kicked off in February this year. And during this accelerator, finalists had access to virtual resources and support, including things like expert talks, online case studies, and a community forum to help them refine their program designs. At the end of Stage 2, all finalists were invited to submit program proposals. And 85 finalists submitted to this stage from across 31 states and 2 territories. Following a thorough review by a review panel and then a scoring panel, 5 prize winners were selected, representing 5 states and pre-apprenticeships across 4 industries. And then finally, based on learnings from the challenge, the Department of Education is launching an online course, creating adult pre-apprenticeships, which is why we're all here today. And that course has really been designed based on learnings from the challenge and is intended to help other adult education providers design pre-apprenticeships or similar programs. And I'll be sharing a little bit more about this course later on in today's session. I'm very excited to share the prize winners. So a huge congratulations to Northampton Community College in Pennsylvania, who are with us here today. And they were selected as the grand prize winner and will receive the $250,000 prize. Their manufacturing pre-apprenticeship is designed to help participants build academic, digital, and workplace skills. We're also incredibly excited to be joined by the team from Guam Community College, who was selected as the first runner-up and will receive $200,000 prize. Their marine transportation program is designed to help participants build shipyard and ship repair skills. A big congratulations to the 3 runners-up as well, who each received $100,000. So Florence County Adult Education in South Carolina, who designed a healthcare pre-apprenticeship, Mount Hood Community College in Portland, Oregon, who designed a construction pre-apprenticeship for English language learners, and then Mount San Antonio College in Walnut, California, who designed a healthcare pre-apprenticeship. So huge congratulations to those prize winners, and you'll be hearing from Northampton and Guam a little bit later in today's session. I also wanted to acknowledge the incredible engagement of the rest of the finalist cohort, whose involvement in the accelerator was absolutely key to the challenge's success. So the finalist cohort consisted of an incredibly broad range of organizations. So 43% were higher education institutions, 23% were local educational agencies, 18% were community or faith-based organizations, and 8% were correctional facilities. We were also really thrilled to see that these finalists designed pre-apprenticeship programs for a very broad range of industries. So 28% were in construction, 24% in manufacturing, 22% in AGA, and this included programs that were being designed for more than one industry, as well as programs across a diverse range of industries such as marine transportation, utilities, early childhood education, and care. And then the remainder, 17% were in healthcare and 8% were in technology and IT. So as you can see, a really amazing mix of both adult education providers, but also programs across an incredibly diverse range of industries as well. Following the challenge, all finalists were invited to complete a feedback survey. And the purpose of this feedback survey was really to hear finalists' thoughts on the virtual accelerator to help inform the development of the Creating Adult Pre-Apprenticeships course. As part of this, finalists were asked about how confident they felt in implementing pre-apprenticeship programs before and after they completed the accelerator. So prior to the accelerator, 10% of finalists said they felt very confident. And after the accelerator, we were really pleased to see that this increased to 74%. At the end of the accelerator, no finalists said they felt not at all confident or not very confident. Finalists were also asked what topics they found helpful in the accelerator, and results showed that more than 75% of finalists found the following topics helpful or very helpful. Understanding pre-apprenticeships, promoting your program, partnering with employers and apprenticeships, setting program goals, and then integrating support services. So off the back of this feedback, we have incorporated all of these topics into the online course, which, as I mentioned, we will walk through a little bit later in today's session. Without further ado, though, I am incredibly excited to hand the mic over to Lauren and Bill from Northampton Community College to share a bit more about their experience participating in the challenge and also their plans for pre-apprenticeships over the coming few years.
Well, thank you, Eden. We really appreciate everything that you've done to propel this program, you and your team. So at Northampton Community College, we took the decision to combine Title II services with industrial maintenance training. We've got a very robust manufacturing base in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, and that's why we decided to do something that was manufacturing oriented. The program is geared to train 40 students over 2 years. The program is 240 hours over 10 weeks of training, 4 days a week from 8:30 in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And our program completers will get a certificate of successful completion, as well as an OSHA 10 certificate, a forklift safety certificate, and the program has been valued for 4 college credits toward a post-secondary manufacturing related degree program at Northampton Community College. So we were delighted that we could partner with the credit side of the house to value the program for anyone who wants to come back and pursue some sort of a certificate or degree on the credit side. Another piece that we found important here is to create a student portfolio where when our students are ready to start going out to interview, they've got something tangible that they can show a prospective employer about all of the achievements they've made over the 10 weeks and 240 hours, whether it's been computer learning, employability skills, or some of the actual hands-on skills that they'll be using in their manufacturing job. And the goal of the program is 80% job placement rate upon program completion. And some of the enrollment strategies we're using to find individuals who are interested in taking advantage of this program, working with new Title II enrollees, telling them about this program and this opportunity that they can take advantage of while they're doing their Title II work. Some of our existing Title II enrollments have shown interest in this as well. So not just the new people, but the folks that we've been working with for a while. We also have an out-of-school youth population that would include Title II eligibility, as well as dislocated workers that include Title II eligibility, and certain incumbent workers that some of our local manufacturing employers are interested in upskilling to make them even more valuable to their companies. And these people are identified through intake, case management, review of career pathways, and various forms of documentation. I'll turn it over to Dr. Bill Schaefer.
Thank you, Lauren. And with that being said, our Title II students, as far as their student pathway for the program, will consist of our ESL, ABE, and GED students. So based on the assessment prior to entering the program, students could enter one of 2 ways. Title II participants would enter into contextualized instruction of 60 hours. Upon successful completion, they would move to that Title II graduate stage, where we will implement contextualized adult ed instruction and workplace preparation skills. That would be 60 hours of classroom and also 30 hours of virtual skills. That virtual skills, we would be using the 180 skills model, where adult education is contextualized for safety as well as manufacturing. Once students complete that part of the program, they would be enrolled in NCC's industrial maintenance that Lauren had previously mentioned for that 240 hours. Once students meet those competencies and complete, they would move into their apprenticeships, other employment, or continue their education with Northampton Community College. During this time from enrollment through completion, they will have access to a student support coordinator. That student support coordinator will help reduce barriers to participation and also provide academic supports as well as referring students to community-based resources. This will also follow students 6 months after their graduation from the program. We will also be embedding in our Title II programs. We are building the foundation skills framework and implementing that. Foundation skills framework consists of basic workplace skills, basic workplace knowledge, and basic employability skills that tie in to lifelong learning. We will use this foundation skills framework so that instructors can assess our students using a rubric, and students can also take a self-assessment to determine where they are in the continuum of instruction. Non-credit to credit pathways. Pre-apprenticeship is the first step on career pathway in advanced manufacturing industry cluster. Program completers earn a certificate of completion, OSHA 10 certificate, forklift safety certificate. As Lauren said, 4 NCC college credits toward a post-secondary manufacturing related degree program will be awarded. 1 credit from the OSHA 10 training and 3 credits from the overall program completion. Upon completion, students are prepared to enter an apprenticeship program, continue their education, or can gain immediate employment as an industrial machinery mechanic, a machinery maintenance worker, a maintenance or repair worker, or a machine operator. To document progress for students along the education continuum, we will be using Badger software. Features of Badger software include a self-service recipient portal. It offers customized certificates and badges. It offers credential validation. It works with other credentialing services. Badger software and the certifications follow the recipients forever, which then provides a self-service option so students can log in anytime and print their certificates and badges. It provides pathway options for programs so students can see after each completion of each module where they are within the career pathway and how many modules are still needed for completion. It provides career insights for users and it tracks progress toward completion. The Badger program is great for grants programs, including micro-credentialing, industrial maintenance, and Title II. Also for certificate programs such as management, supervisory, and others. Great for tracking stackable credentials, building student portfolios, and students can even post their credentials on social media sites like LinkedIn.
So wrapping up, and thank you all for your time and attention. This program blends together concurrent and contextualized hands-on activities for all the different learners. Title II and workplace prep support for occupational training are key to eventual success for hiring and success in the workplace for these learners that we're working with. We're really focused on increasing enrollment and successful job placement because that's the ultimate goal, either further education or job placement. But we find that many of the students that come through these programs are really primarily looking to get themselves into an occupation and a job and then consider further education once they're established in the workplace. We're looking forward to more collaboration with our credit departments and dual enrollment opportunities across academic and the trades and industrial areas. We are putting significant effort toward these efforts just to make sure that individuals, our students in these programs, are being recognized for what they've achieved, whether it's credit or non-credit training, we can kind of flow seamlessly between the two based on what a learner is interested in or their employer might ask them to propel themselves forward. And we will be sustaining this training in these programs through individual training accounts, through our Workforce Development Board, and in Pennsylvania, the CareerLink system. WEDNet PA funding is training funding for our local manufacturing employers to put individuals through training. and obviously through our employer partnerships that have been so supportive of all the training that we're doing in this realm. So that's it for us today. So thank you very much. We really appreciate the opportunity to share what we've developed.
Thank you so much, Lauren and William. I just wanted to share a quick note. I can already see lots of great questions coming through for the prize winning teams. Just a reminder, please make sure you share them in the Q&A window rather than the chat. That way we will come back to them during the Q&A segment at the end of the session. But please keep the questions coming. We'll definitely have time to answer them a little bit later on. I'm now really pleased to hand over to Dr. Mary Okada from the Guam Community College, the first runner-up, to share a little bit more about their experience.
Half a day and good morning from Guam. The Guam Community College offers 4 different types of pathways for students. Currently, we have 1 bachelor's degree program in career and technical education, 24 associate degree programs, 17 certificates, and our workforce development boot camps. We are all proud of our work, and today we are going to be focusing on our ship repair boot camps, preparing a ready workforce. Next slide, please. So just to give a little bit of information as to where Guam is and why Guam needs ship repair. So some statistics, Guam is in the Western Pacific, 13 degrees north of the equator. Guam is 6,100 miles from Los Angeles, California, and 1,500 miles east of the Philippines. The fastest commercial flight between the West Coast and Guam is 18 hours, counting stops or layovers when you travel. And the US Navy has a strong presence here on the island, and nearly 1/3 of all the land belongs to the military. And so Guam's businesses rely heavily on shipping to import and export almost all the goods that are brought to our island. So rethinking how we deliver effective training, there were several things that we included. One was we created a memorandum of understanding or a commitment letter with employer partners and sponsors. And so what we did in this particular program is we engaged employer sponsors throughout the training program. So they provided guidance and recommendations from their subject matter experts and also worked with our instructors. Because of the COVID-19, we created a blended environment for online and face-to-face instruction. In addition, the college provides wraparound services such as career and academic counseling, tutoring, resume writing, interview skills training, and we provided a focus on soft skills training. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then we coordinated the interviews of the applicants for the boot camps with our employer sponsors. And so this was a very important component because not only did the employer sponsors help to review the applications for our boot camp program, but they also provided some insight for the students as the training program took place. Next slide, please. So beyond hard skills, there are soft skills that matter more. And we often hear from employers here on Guam that technical training is very important, but the soft skills training is also equally important. And so the Guam Community College boot camp participants also received training in nationally recognized certifications in work ethics. And we partnered with the Center for Work Ethic. And the whole concept of that was to bring your A game. So the design of the program was bring your A game to work, which really focused on the 7 A's of work ethic that include attitude, attendance, appearance, ambition, accountability, acceptance, and appreciation. We also include OSHA 10 as one of the certifications. In addition, CPR and first aid to support our ship repair component because of where they are located. And then we use WorkKey's National Career Readiness Certificate as well. So all of these are incorporated into the boot camp model. So as I mentioned earlier, we engage private sector partners in pre-apprenticeship bootcamp design. So the private sector partners help to assist in developing the curriculum for the program. They interview applicants, they select and hire completers, and then eventually register employees for their apprenticeship program. And it's very important that we engage the employers at the front end of our boot camp. So our model identified the employer sponsor, and then as they worked with us through this process, intermittently meeting with students throughout the boot camp, the MOA that we designed has the employer sponsor commit to hiring the completers to support their industry. So the boot camp is really designed to identify what areas that they have job opportunities, and for the college to help fill those jobs for them. And then as the students become employees, then they become eligible to participate in the apprenticeship program that is also here on Guam, coordinated with the employer sponsor, with the Guam Community College, and with the Guam Department of Labor. And so this is a map of the Guam Community College campus. We are sitting on 32.75 acres in the village of Manilao on Guam, and it's about central. The island is about 32 miles long by 8 miles wide at its widest point. We have several LEED certified buildings here on campus, and there are many other buildings currently being renovated and upgraded to also be LEED certified. We are in close proximity, not only to a high school, but a short distance away from the University of Guam as well. So this photo here just kind of gives you an idea where we are, close to the ocean. And so there is a cliff line and a wonderful view at the back of the campus. And so that concludes my presentation this morning. Thank you very much. We're very excited about sharing how we've developed our pre-apprenticeship program, and look forward to any questions that you may have this morning. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mary. That looks absolutely beautiful. I'm based in New York, so I'm definitely a little bit jealous of that outlook. I now wanted to share a little bit more about the resources that the Department of Education is releasing to help adult education providers develop pre-apprenticeships. So with all of this in mind, the department is incredibly pleased to announce the Creating Adult Pre-Apprenticeships course. And as I mentioned earlier, this course is based on learnings from the challenge, including a lot of the feedback that finalists shared with us throughout the accelerator and through the feedback at the end of the challenge. The content includes examples and resources that are relevant to a broad range of adult education providers and a variety of industries. And by the end of the course, participants will understand the attributes of high quality pre-apprenticeship programs, how to develop and maintain effective partnerships with industry, how to tailor a program to specific learner needs, such as through support services or targeted outreach to learners, and then also how to measure key program outcomes to make sure that the program is achieving what it set out to do. So the online course is structured around 4 modules, and each of these modules contains several topics. Each module then concludes with a reflection, which is designed to help participants really kind of reflect on what they've learned throughout the topic, and then go back and review any resources if needed. The modules are in sequential order, reflecting the key steps for designing a pre-apprenticeship program, but you might find that you need to move back and forth between these modules depending on your needs and your schedule. We know that you all have a lot going on, so we've deliberately designed the course to be self-paced and flexible. If you're looking to start a pre-apprenticeship program from scratch, you might find that you need to start the course at the beginning and go through everything in order. If you are already implementing a pre-apprenticeship program or a similar IET program, you might find that you just want to jump in and out of topics depending on what your organization needs. So as you can see, there are 4 modules here. So the first module is understanding pre-apprenticeships. And this provides context on the background of exactly what a pre-apprenticeship is, so key definitions and key concepts, as well as the attributes of high quality pre-apprenticeship programs. Module 2 is called Working with Industry, and it's designed to help providers learn more about their target industry, including identifying relevant workforce data, understanding how to interpret that data, and then also learning about how to form partnerships with employers and apprenticeship programs. Module 3, Designing Your Pre-Apprenticeship, is focused more on specific elements of program design. So this includes things like setting entry requirements, identifying specific adult learner activities, and then also integrating support services, which you might find that you offer directly through your program or through partnerships with other providers. And then the fourth module, Managing Your Pre-Apprenticeship, includes topics around outreach and recruitment, so how to reach specific target learners, measuring outcomes, so really understanding how to set outcomes and then measure your progress towards achieving them, and then a final conclusion and reflection. As I mentioned before, the course has been designed to be flexible, so it will be available via links, and it should be launched sometime in the fall. We will email everybody as soon as this becomes available. You might also wish to keep an eye on Link's social media channels, and we will share an announcement there as well. The course has been designed for providers with varied experience with pre-apprenticeship. So I know looking at the chat earlier, some of you are totally new to pre-apprenticeship, others are a little bit more experienced, and the course has been deliberately designed with those needs in mind. It is entirely virtual and self-paced. It's estimated that it would take about 8 hours to go through from start to finish, but there are also quite a few activities in the course that would require you to go away and do work on your own schedule. So for example, reaching out to potential partners or conducting research with target learners or industry. And some of these activities may take several weeks or even months, depending on where your organization is at and your priorities, goals, and capacity. The course itself includes a mix of written resources, activities, and templates, and these have been deliberately designed to help you apply your learnings as you go. Okay, so I'm now pleased to open it up for a Q&A. I can see that we've already received quite a few questions via the Q&A window in Zoom. We also received a few questions via the Eventbrite registration prior to today's session, so we'll go through both of those. Just as a reminder, you're welcome to ask questions of the department, of Luminary Labs if you have any specific questions about the challenge itself. And then of course, we have both challenge teams here who are very well placed to answer questions about their specific experiences and their program design. As a reminder, if you do have questions, please make sure you're sharing them in the Q&A window in Zoom rather than the chat, just so that we can make sure we're keeping track and not missing any important questions as they come through. So to start, I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to add some more questions to the Q&A, but I did want to start with just a few of the questions that we received by the Eventbrite for some of the prize winners. And I will try and pass these along to both challenge teams. If you have a specific question that's geared towards Northampton or Guam, feel free to note that in your question as well. So to get us started, I would love to open up a question for Lauren, Bill, and Mary. What advice would you have for providers who have not made contact with an apprenticeship program? What is the first step? How should someone start when they're looking to make that first contact with a potential partner? Bill, I'll start with you, and then Mary and Lauren, feel free to chime in after that.
Well, I think a lot of these relationships certainly have been from our prior work at Northampton Community College. As Title II, we have vetted a lot of our employment, education, and training programs with employers. Our initial step is we're working with our career link to look at those high priority occupations. And then from there, meeting with those employers to get a sense of the competencies that they're specifically looking for in their workforce. And from there, we meet with those employers and build that curriculum so that it is vetted. So when they could successfully complete not only the industrial maintenance, manufacturing, or our IET and healthcare, they're aware of the knowledge, skills, and abilities our students have upon completion. So that makes placement and continuing education a very easy match to make. And I'll turn it over to Lauren as far as, contacting, employers and how that process gets underway.
I think we partner with a lot of these, in this instance, manufacturers, because that is a very large business sector in the area. And like so many other places, so many of these companies are having a really difficult time finding qualified people to fill positions. So what we're finding is that they're very willing to partner with us. They're anxious to help us. They're anxious to learn more about what we're going to be able to do for them as they give us more knowledge. And to Bill's point, we do partner very heavily with our local career link to make sure that we are dealing with the high priority occupation list, fulfilling all those promises that we're making to our local businesses.
Great, thank you. And Mary, do you have anything specific to add from your experience in Guam?
Sure. So Guam is quite unique because being the only community college here on Guam, we also provide the career and technical education for 6 public high schools here on Guam. So it is staffed by college faculty. And so we develop the programs to support. Right now, we have 12 career and technical education programs in the public schools. And so many of the folks in industry do participate as part of our career and technical education advisory group, also at the post-secondary level. And so let me just speak a little bit more about the secondary programs. So the secondary programs are designed for one of 2 ways. They can either complete a certificate of completion or a certificate of mastery. And so what that means is if a student enrolls in their sophomore year and completes the 3 years of the college or the career and technical education program, they have an opportunity to receive the certificate of completion. However, if they receive or complete the 3-year program, receive 180 hours of work experience, which the college works with industry to place students for 180 hours, and they get a C or better in their courses, they are also eligible for dual credit in the post-secondary or at the college level. So we've set up a pipeline where they're able to take high school courses and also earn college credit at the same time. So we're very linked to the high schools in developing the programs. We do work very closely with industry, not just in the work experience as high school students, but when they complete post-secondary, we also work with the employers to get our students placed in the various fields.
Great, thank you all for sharing. I have one more question from Eventbrite, and then I will jump over to the Q&A in Zoom. So this one I think is geared towards both challenge teams as well. So we know that pre-apprenticeships involve a mix of employability or soft skills and technical skills. How do you balance those when designing your curriculum? And do you think that some skills are more important than others, or do you try and incorporate them all evenly? Mary, I'll pass that one to you, and then Northampton, feel free to chime in.
So how we've developed our boot camp really is in concert with the employer. As I identified, we work in partnership with the employer from the front end. And so the boot camps are really designed based on employer need and based on the courses that they want for the entry level into their organization. So as I mentioned earlier, many employers say you can give us individuals that are, highly skilled, but if they don't show up to work, they don't have the right attitude, then, my organization will suffer and the turnover will be really high because I need people to be committed. And so that's why we partnered with and provided the work ethic training. So there is a balance and it really is dependent upon the employer, but I would say that they're equally balanced because the boot camps really are introductory to some extent of certain classes. And so with the ship repair, we give them a little bit of carpentry, we give them welding, we give them HVAC. And so as they enter employment upon completion, the employer identifies where their skill set is, and then they become, or they get enrolled into the apprenticeable trade based on their strengths. And so I would say that it's equally important, but you work with your employers. For us, we work with the employers to provide that balance for them. Thank you.
I think Bill and I would both agree with everything that Mary said. There's a balance there. It's very, very important. If you've got a brilliantly trained individual who can't communicate or work as part of a team, they're not going to end up being successful, in most workplace scenarios. And similar to what Mary said, we worked with our employers and surveyed them, saying, like, which of these attributes are most important to you to have a successful employee, in addition, obviously, to having technical skills. And we worked with dozens of employers locally to determine what types of training we needed to instill in individuals to be successful. So in addition to, a lot of what's already been mentioned, we do a lot of training to get people ready to interview properly, to present themselves properly, to communicate appropriately, to help them write a good resume, to do a lot of mock interviews. We also have employer days, which allows these folks who are getting very close to the end of a program, maybe 3 or 4 weeks away from completion, to meet some of the employers and get a sense of what those individuals are like, what they're looking for, and to gain a little bit of familiarity with what those companies produce or what their function is. And that helps to create some confidence and build interest in each of the individuals, because every company is a little bit different. So that level of exposure allows some of the different individuals to determine where they think, from a cultural standpoint or an interest standpoint, they might be the best fit for success.
Great, thank you, Lauren and Mary. So I'm now going to move on to some of the questions we've received via Zoom today. So the first one is from Judy. Do the winning pre-apprenticeship programs consider their design and delivery to be WIOA integrated education and training programs? Bill, I'll let you jump in and then we can handle it.
Sure. The way we have structured our program is for students to move through Title II, then go into adult education and workplace prep skills, sort of an introduction to manufacturing, if you will, before proceeding on to the 240-hour industrial maintenance. So since our structure does not teach adult ed workplace concurrently with the occupational training, ours would not meet Pennsylvania's definition of an IET.
And so for us, we just held our first IET program this past summer. Previously, we had not done any IET, but it was in food service. And so if we were to set this up as an integrated education and training program, we would just have to work through that process. So we're very early in that stage of IET right now.
Great, thank you both. The next question, I believe, was in response to the Northampton presentation. What type of community support has been received for job placement?
What I would say about job placement is, again, we've got these employer partners who have been very supportive of many different types of programs that we provide here at the school. And, there are times that we'll do an employer day where the employers and the students get to meet each other and see where the match might be. And there are times we'll have 15 employers and only 10 students. I mean, there's sort of a little bit of a line out the door willing to hire these individuals. And we've got many success stories from current programs and some former programs where we stay in touch with our learners. We stay in touch with these employers, obviously, to see how people are escalating their skill sets, getting promoted through a company, and we've had success there. So they're willing to continue to support us because they're anxious to hire people that we produce with the right skills for them.
Great, thank you. And I think we have one more specifically for Northampton, which was, did each certificate require a different prerequisite for entry? Not sure if that was in reference to something specific in your presentation, Lauren.
We have various modules, some prerequisites, obviously that we would do, is a little bit of testing regarding reading and math. Sometimes a mechanical aptitude test based on a program would allow us to understand how successful somebody might be at the outset, or if they need some remediation before we can get them into a program, hoping that they'll be very successful. Bill, I don't know what you might add to that.
And what we would look to do, we use the CASAS goals for reading and math assessment, and we would be looking for, in that individual skills profile, that students receive an 80% competency in each of those focus areas listed in that profile. In addition to that, we're using the foundation skills framework competencies as a barometer, and informal assessment, instructor observation of student work within the classroom as far as teamwork and communication and those type of skills, then provide a framework for us then to be able to note those competencies within the classroom, that we would feel comfortable for those students then, like Lauren said, if there's mechanical aptitude in conjunction with that, to have all of those assessments completed prior to entering into that 240-hour class. So those would be the type of assessments that we would be using to gauge readiness.
Got it. Thank you both. And then this is a question for both programs. Are your pre-apprenticeship programs free for students, and do students get paid while attending the pre-apprenticeship program? Mary, I'll pass that one to you, and then Northampton, feel free to jump in.
Okay, so for the pre-apprenticeship program we have in the high school, of course, that's just part of their academic courses. For the pre-apprenticeship program that we establish in the boot camps for the post-secondary, or those that have completed or nearing completion, the programs are free. We use this opportunity with individual, we received, so Guam has a lot of H-2B workers that come to Guam. And so there is a fee that is assessed at the government level that for every H-2 worker that comes into Guam, it goes into this called the Manpower Development Fund. And that Manpower Development Fund is used for apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship training. And so that's how we have access to that particular funding. And there have been a lot of H-2 workers here on Guam for many years. And so that funding right now is very healthy. So yes, the program is free. And in our pre-apprenticeship programs, the students do not get paid while they are attending the program.
And Northampton's answer is the same. The programs are free at this point, and individuals do not get paid to attend the program, although many of them may work part-time while they're in the program.
Thank you both. And then this question is to both teams as well, from Deborah. What are you using for student self-assessment?
So for our boot camps, we are using the ACT Work Keys National Career Readiness Certificate, and so that is what we're using for all of our students for this program.
And like I mentioned earlier, we're using those CASAS individual skills profile within the 180 skills that's specifically contextualized for industrial maintenance. It follows that Badger system that we talked about earlier. So we're looking at a benchmark of 80% competency ranking in that is manufacturing right for you class prior to moving on to that 240 hours. So those are the two things that we're using as benchmarking.
Great, thank you. And then we have a specific question for Guam here from Paula. How many hours is the Guam program?
So depending on the employer, the Guam program could be anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. And it's a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, basically.
Got it. Thank you. And then another Guam specific question for you, Mary, from Julie. What experience has Guam had with the work ethic course? They are also going to use it in their program.
Yeah, so the work ethic course, we partnered with the Center for Work Ethic, and we actually brought them and did a train the trainer group. So we had about 25 individuals from the college that were trained to provide the work ethic training. And so it's been very helpful for our programs, specifically for our employers that recognize that by preparing students or individuals to complete the work ethics, that it has helped them in terms of the types of individuals that they are actually recruiting. So it's been working for us, and we've continued to use this and embed this in our boot camps. And most recently, we've started to introduce work ethic at the high school level as well.
Great, thank you. And then pivoting to a couple of follow-up questions for the Northampton team. Could you please repeat the platform you utilize for the credential badges?
Yes, the platform is called Badger. It's BADGR. And you can just Google that and the website will pop right up and explain exactly how it works.
Great, thank you. And we can pop that in the chat as well so that you have a reference there too. And then there was another question for Northampton. So do students need a GED or high school diploma before they can participate in the pre-apprenticeship program?
Most employers do require a GED or high school diploma. We found that some employers are willing to, during the probationary status, during employment, have students work to their GED during that 90-day probationary period. So, we really take the lead for that employer, but certainly we would like to have students attain either one of those credentials prior to entry.
Great, thank you for that, Bill. We have a follow-up question here, which I think is building on what you've all shared so far, just around credentials and certifications. So how did you partner with employers to ensure that credentials and certifications are widely accepted? Mary, I'll hand that to you, and then Lauren and Bill jump in.
So basically, when the community found out that we were going to be standing up boot camps, we asked, let us help fill your need. And a lot of employers reached out to us, telling us what their vacancies are and how we can help build. And because of the pandemic and a lot of folks becoming unemployed, some people wanting to transition and maybe do a career change, that was an opportunity for them to identify people who were working in the workforce at one time that do have work ethic because they, just unfortunately got laid off or reduced hours. And so, with that process and employers contacting us to help, we really sat down with them and says, help us understand what you need and help us build a cohort of individuals that you would hire to support your industry. And so that's kind of how the conversation has evolved. We're not short of employers right now. We've got a lot of boot camps in many different areas lined up. And we continue to roll that forward because, like I said, funding is available and has been available to support these programs, and primarily with the number of individuals that still remain unemployed. And some employers are hiring, they can't find folks, and some individuals are unemployed and they can't find work. So we're trying to help match those two up and either provide skills or upskill individuals so that they can enter the workforce again.
And I think Bill and I would both basically repeat exactly what Mary said. That's what we really look to do. And it's a successful model that works. And, as the word spreads locally, and it's probably the same in Guam, you find that more and more employers are actually reaching out to us to say, tell me more about what these opportunities are, because there does seem to be a tremendous gap between qualified individuals and open positions. So I think many community colleges are working very, very hard to fill those gaps for their local employers.
Thanks, Lauren. I'm loving the alignment between the two teams here. I am also mindful of time. I can see we still have a few questions that we haven't got to. I'm going to try and get to as many as we can. If we don't get to your question today, you're also welcome to email the challenge inbox and we will try to respond to you that way. A few follow-up questions for both teams off the back of what you shared so far. So back to the question about high school diploma and GED for you, Bill. Have you found that employers value the high school diploma over the GED or equivalent?
No, it really is based on the competencies that the students attain within the classroom and that portfolio that is being built. We find that that is the most important thing, and that pretty much makes it a level playing field.
And for us, it's for us, it's just high school. As long as they completed high school, whether it be GED or a diploma or high step.
Great, thank you. And then a quick follow-up question for you, Mary. Why is your program referred to as a boot camp as opposed to a pre-apprenticeship?
So we labeled it as a boot camp because we put them in cohorts, and not necessarily that it's military style, but because of the cohort model. And if you ever experience the boot camps in process or in progress, you'll see that the individuals really help to support each other. So for example, when a student they take the National Career Readiness Certificate and they take it and, they see some areas where they're struggling. You'll find individuals that are good in math in the boot camp are actually lending a hand and offering tutoring assistance to their peers. And so they really gel as boot camp participants, and then they gel because when they get to the workforce, they're also together. It was just a catchy way for us to say, let's get boots on the ground and get individuals back to work.
I love that. Thank you, Mary. And then we have a question here from Jim. So do all pre-apprenticeship programs need to be registered with the state in order to be classified and or recognized as a pre-apprenticeship leading to apprenticeship? It is my understanding that every state has slightly different requirements around this, but I would love to hear from both teams as to what the situation is in Pennsylvania and in Guam around registered pre-apprenticeships.
I think in Pennsylvania, we're just venturing into the registered pre-apprenticeship realm. Working with employers, understanding what they're looking for, understanding if they've got their own internal or state registered apprenticeships. That's part of the information we gather to build our programs to get people ready to enter those programs and succeed at the employers. But I think that's something that we're just venturing into in PA at this point.
For Guam, you do not need to be registered as pre-apprenticeship. That leads to apprenticeship. You don't have to be registered. We call, like I said earlier, we call many of our career and technical education programs in the high schools. They're also classified in our mind as pre-apprenticeship, but it's not registered. It's just something that the community that is associated with the community college.
Great, thank you both. And then final question, I think for the challenge team, we've also got a few questions for the Department of Education team as well. So this one here, can you talk a little about the 180 skills model?
Sure. We've used that in our manufacturing programs before. What the 180 skills module is set to do is it's a virtual environment that lets students practice the skills they've learned during that 60-hour classroom component. So they are practicing virtually with the equipment such as calipers and measurement tools and those kind of things within that learning management system, prior to going into the industrial maintenance and using the real life the tools. So, it gets students who are maybe a little bit hesitant a chance to practice those particular skills before going in to that lab setting or hands-on classroom setting. So within that, it's a self-contained learning management system that does have a checklist of competencies. Again, we're shooting for 80%. It will award badges once we know they have 80% competency. Students would move along. So it's kind of like that virtual practice before moving into a classroom model. And I will be more than happy to send that link out and put that in the chat as well.
Great, thank you so much. So I wanted to move on to a couple of questions for the department. And then if we've got time, we'll come back to a few final questions for the challenge team, because I can tell it's super helpful and we've got lots of great questions coming through from the group. So appreciate that. So the first one, from one of the attendees today. So does the Links course also speak to those adult education programs that are not part of a community college as far as building a pre-apprenticeship program? I can give a quick answer to that, and then I might pass it over to Travis in case he's got any additional context. But the short answer is yes. So we have deliberately designed the course to be relevant to a range of adult education providers based on the diversity of providers who participated in the virtual accelerator. So as I mentioned earlier, finalists included community colleges, but they also included correctional facilities and local educational agencies and other provider types. So we've deliberately tried to design the course so that it is relevant to all adult education providers, acknowledging that what this looks like will be a little bit different depending on your organization type, but also your location and also your industry. I'm not sure, Travis, if you have anything additional to add to that question.
I don't. I think you answered it perfectly, Eden.
Okay, great. Thank you. We also got a couple of questions via the Eventbrite, which I wanted to jump back into. So the first one, are there other sources of funding available for pre-apprenticeship programs? And if so, where can we find out more? Travis and Cheryl, I'll pass that one over to you.
Travis, you can take it.
Thanks, Eden. Thanks, Cheryl. The different funding opportunities that are available for apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships, we would probably direct you to the apprenticeships.ed.gov or apprenticeships.gov. Sorry, I'm thinking of the education department. So apprenticeships.gov, where they list a bunch of resources that are available to programs in states that are running apprenticeship programs or looking at pre-apprenticeship programs. I think, as Eden pointed out very early on in the webinar, the pre-apprenticeship space is relatively new. And so definitions for pre-apprenticeship are ongoing or upcoming. And the pre-apprenticeship space is relatively new in general. So as more things develop in the space, we're hoping that we see more funding and resources available for pre-apprenticeships.
Great, thank you, Travis. And just in case you missed it, we have just popped the link to the resource that Travis mentioned in the chat. So you should be able to click through and see a little bit more information about available funding there. We also received another question via the Eventbrite for the department. So pre-apprenticeship programs considered workplace adult education and/or integrated education and training programs so that they can utilize measurable skill gain types 3 to 5 for performance accountability. And Cheryl and Travis, I'll pass that one over to you as well.
I can take that one. Let's see, do I have my video on? Okay.
We can see you, yeah.
Okay, great. So there wouldn't be a webinar if we didn't have an NRS question. So thank you for keeping the tradition alive. So I think that you probably heard by now that our 2 winners have very beautiful designs for pre-apprenticeship programs. that are not considered IET. So the answer is really that it depends. You have to look first, the eligibility to use those other types of gains, 3, 4, and 5 in the NRS reporting is contingent on the program qualifying to be an IET program or a workplace program. So not all pre-apprenticeship programs are designed to meet those definitions, but some may be. So the answer is really, it just depends on the design of the program. We're going to pop a link into the chat box. We have just issued recently some NRS tips. Our contractor at AIR has done that. So there is a very easy to follow tip sheet on using those additional types of gains, and hopefully that can help you sort through your question. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Cheryl. We have a question here from Amanda. So will there be moderated conversations around each module in the online course so that people who are doing the modules on their own can talk to peers who are doing the course at roughly the same time? I think this is an excellent question. I will take a stab, and then Travis, I might pass it over to you as well. So at this point, we have not built that into the course, but I would say that we are very open to suggestions on other ways that we can continue to support adult ed providers. So if you do have thoughts once the course is launched, then feel free to email the challenge team or links, and we'll be very open to that feedback. Travis, I'm not sure if you have anything further to add there.
Carolyn and I were chatting offline about the question that came through, and I do think it's a very relevant question and definitely something that we should think about in terms of maybe a community of practice around the Rethink Adult Ed course. And so we are definitely glad you asked the question, and we will look for ways in order to support that.
Great. Thank you, Travis. And we will pop up just when we wrap this, some contact information as well. So if you do have questions once the course is launched, I'll let you know how you can get in touch with the team too. Okay, I'm mindful of time. We have a couple of final questions here that I think are potentially for challenge teams, but the Department of Staff might also have some answers as well. So I will open it up for the broader group. We have one from April here. Would it be effective to allow the incoming students to see their end result as apprenticeship to employment upon entering the adult education program in order to keep their interest and attendance? Sometimes students give in to peer pressure, or there is no one else encouraging them once they return to their home and community. So the two challenge teams, I would love to hear your thoughts on how you encourage kind of ongoing engagement and retention.
What I would offer up there is that it's really, really important to have program managers, instructors, any type of program support very enthusiastic and very supportive for all these students, because many of them do have any variety of challenges in their lives, and they need to feel like they're being paid attention to and heard and taken care of and really encouraged here. And I think that's one of the reasons we do have the employers so involved, because beyond the employer days and employers coming in to talk about their company or show a video, oftentimes we'll take our students out on company tours so that they can stand in the middle of a place where they might end up working and get a real sense of, what's the culture, what's the equipment. If it's manufacturing, it doesn't mean that it's dirty and dangerous anymore. A lot of it's very high tech and very compelling, and to get a sense of whether they think they would fit in that atmosphere based on looking at the other employees that are there, talking to some of the managers, et cetera. So it's sort of a full spectrum, support process that we try to put in play internally and externally to make sure individuals understand, that we care about them, that the employers care about them, and really the ultimate goal for everyone is to see them succeed.
And to add to Lauren's comments, I think, having a visual on-ramp and off-ramp for students is very crucial so they can track their progress along that continuum. And in addition to that, also providing this information to our Title II students who may not be sure whether they want to engage in this program or not, and just having, graduates speak about that, or other students who are involved in the program to speak to those other Title II students who may not have imagined this as a pathway.
And so I would also echo that, but also indicate that providing wraparound services to students is very important. Primarily because I would say that on the very first ship repair boot camp we had veterans, we had a homeless individual, we had unemployed, underemployed, we had women, we had a member of the LGBTQ community. So it was a really diverse group. And so recognizing that there are different types of individuals that you're going to work with, and giving them a sense of, what that workplace would require is very helpful, but also very encouraging that they can work with a diverse group of individuals and still be successful. And so when you're working towards a common goal, in our case, employer with the ship repair industry, it was the carrot hanging throughout the program so that they can see that there was light at the end of the tunnel, and that they were going to eventually, they completed a program on a Friday and they stepped right into the workforce the following Monday, if not that Friday afternoon. So it's really important to provide them with the support they need throughout the program.
That's amazing. Thank you both so much. I'm going to ask one very final question, and then unfortunately we will have to wrap. So the final question is from Carol. Do I have to work directly with the school or community college, or can I design my own entrepreneurship/apprenticeship program? I think this one is potentially something that everyone might want to weigh in on. For the sake of the challenge itself, you did have to be an AFLA-funded adult education provider to participate. But I know that pre-apprenticeship programs are delivered by a range of different organization types, including adult education providers, but also other community and faith-based organizations and workforce development organizations. So my understanding is pre-apprenticeships can be delivered by a very broad range of entities. I'm not sure if anyone else on the panel has anything to add to that answer.
No.
No.
Okay, well, I hope that answered your question, Carol. And I know we have a few questions we didn't quite get to. As I mentioned before, if you did have a question we didn't answer today, feel free to reach out to the challenge team. And that is hello@rethinkadulted.com. And we will do our best to either answer it or pass it along to someone who can. A huge thank you to the prize winners who joined us today. A big congratulations, and we are so appreciative of you taking the time to share all your learnings with everyone today. I think you can tell by the number of questions we got, it was incredibly helpful for people. So really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you for everything. We appreciate everybody's time and interest.
Thank you for having us.
And then if you missed it, Carolyn from the department has just popped in the chat a link to the Links community, where there are several other adult education related courses, including some that have a focus on workforce related training. So please take a look at that. That is also where the course will be available once it is launched later in the fall. If you do have questions in the meantime about links in regards to setting up an account or accessing courses, please contact the links team at community.links.ed.gov/contact/contact_us, and we can pop that link in the chat as well. Again, thank you all so much for joining. Apologies we didn't quite get to all the questions, but please follow up if you do have anything else you wanted to ask us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone, and thanks to the department staff for joining us as well today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.